This is for my essay number 2, was my persuasive essay. It was on standardized testing and how they should not be in primary schools because of all the negative effects. The first reason why standardized testing should not be in primary schools is because it is an unreliable measure of the student's abilities. Standardized tests are multiple choice tests with 1 or 2 open-ended questions. They're specifically on math, reading, and writing, and there are a few science as well. They show limited expression of knowledge, so they do not explain knowledge to the extent that it should. Some students can answer questions verbally, but struggle with the writing and reading part, which is not fair because some students do not struggle with reading and writing, and some do. So it is an unfair test. Students with learning disabilities are given the same test as every other student. Again, this is why it is an unreliable measure of their abilities, because some kids can answer a question, just not in the way that they want it. As we know, students are very creative and intelligent in many ways, so this is just very limited for them. Editor Peter Tate said, "Measuring intelligence through examination is inevitably as limited as the examination itself. Whilst it might prove a reasonable tool, perhaps even the best we can provide, it will not identify many of those we instinctively know to be intelligent." This standardized testing leads to drill and kill teaching strategies. Instead of helping the children grow in the way they learn best, teachers focus only on the main subjects that are included in the standardized test. So with these teachers being rushed to teach all the lessons, they tend to drill these lessons into the children's brains with a day or two and try and get it in their heads, but the kids are not learning it in many different ways that or in the ways that they learn best. So the standardized testing is also an unreliable measure of the teacher's abilities. They are forced to teach very specific information because they are scared of having a bad class average on the tests. Teachers are evaluated by student scores and can lead to job loss. If their average scores are constantly low, it can lead to job loss. The NEA, which is the National Education Association, had a survey, and they found that education reformers have persuaded lawmakers across the nation that the only quick and easy way to rule teachers out is to tie teacher evaluation to their test scores. So a national strategy of evaluating teachers is by looking at their average test scores of their kids, which is an inaccurate way of showing that. This leads to creativity being pushed out of the classroom. Walker says over the past decade, the high-stakes testing regime has squeezed out much of the curriculum that can make schools an engaging and enriching experience for students, and teachers have been forced to dilute their creativity to teach the test. Because they're so focused on drilling and killing these lessons, a lot of their creativity is pushed out of the classroom. They don't have enough time for different teaching strategies in their own creative ways. Teachers want to make a difference by helping their students learn in a fun and creative way, not with the boring, dull curriculums and the drill and kill strategies. The standardized test leads to stress. Some students are not ready to take these tests. This result is that those students feel pressured by their inner drive to succeed, a quest for perfection, or a fear of failure, especially if they may be unfamiliar with the English language or not yet up to the reading or developmental level of the test in front of them. Time spent preparing for these tests leads to students being stressed and frustrated. These students will struggle with the test, which will lead to anxiety that an 8-year-old or 12-year-old should not be experiencing in a place where they are meant to learn and how to correctly work on school and education, but we're teaching them to only care about tests, and we're teaching them to be stressed about their test scores more than anything else, more than just learning the basic skills. As schools experience increased pressure to perform on standardized tests, and face discipline challenges on the playground. Many are cutting back on programs that engage kids in physical activity of any kind, let alone activities that are fun and meaningful. So because they're spending so much time in the classroom teaching these lessons, even recess has been cut short, and we all know that recess is definitely a way that kids relieve stress. So it's definitely adding to even more stress for the kids, and they don't even have a way to deal with it. School districts are also experiencing high amounts of stress. A snowball effect of standardized tests I included here just so we can see the big picture. So it starts with schools nationwide are ranked off of test scores. Because of that, test scores are important for every school. Therefore, schools need good or high scores and rankings. Because of that, schools change their curriculum, and it leads to the drill and kill learning because they are so pushed. Teachers then get stressed about that and being represented with good class scores because they're scared about their job. And students are stressed about taking the tests. So it all just snowballs down and more is happening. Is this the best measure of knowledge because of equality? My counter-argument is some people think standardized tests are the best way to evaluate. However, that's not correct because of what I talked about earlier. Every child is different and learns different, and some have disabilities, so this is not a fair and equal test. Standardized tests do not correctly measure students' abilities, teachers' abilities, and they cause stress for teachers, students, and districts. So there should be less standardized tests within school districts across the nation. Just a fact to end on, editor Lindsay Layton says children from pre-kindergarten through 6 are spending an average of over 100 hours on these tests. That is 100 hours they could be spending learning life skills that they need after the tests, that they should know for after school, but they're focusing on just the tests. And let's make a difference and fight for this. It is time that schools have the ability to accurately measure the students' performances in class, and accurately measure the teachers' abilities, and to relieve stress for the students, and it should say students, teachers, and school districts, because we did talk about all three. If we put our attention on the students instead of the standardized test scores in primary schools, our country's next generation will definitely benefit greatly. Okay, thank you.